I can't load your horse for you unless I'm right there. I don't want to load your horse for you. The travel is killing me. But I do want you to load your horse, and I want you to do it well. I want you to be confident at the back of the trailer. I want your horse to have confidence in you. I don't want you to succumb to people's pressure. Hurry, hurry, we got to, You hurry, hurry, go and take a nap. Take a powder, do something. No hurry, hurry on the trailer loading. It's about the worst thing that you can do is force a horse in a trailer, because these lessons, he doesn't forget about being loaded in a hurry. He doesn't forget how to resist. He doesn't forget how unpleasant it is to be told before being asked. He doesn't forget, this horse, who's forced in a trailer with 2 or 3 or 5 people each and every time, or even just once in a big dramatic or traumatic way. It is so simple, so easy and simple to put the preparation in there just in the course of your daily handling of these horses, to put the preparation in there that they will rely on when you say, would you please get up in this trailer for me? Let me come in there with you and tie you up, or I'll meet you around the front and tie you up. There's no reason, unless you're somebody who's just going to throw your kid out the back of the car at their first day of day school or preschool. If you're going to treat your children like that, okay, then you're off the hook. But really, you know, these horses are 1,000 pounds a try. They're put here to help us, and it doesn't take too much for us to help them get a foundation that would allow them to do what you want, not force them, not make them submit and succumb when they're frightened. Those of you who were taught to do that type of thing, and I was one of them, by the way, my first 13 years with horses, 14 years with horses, were really lovely. I was not around people that forced horses to do things. I was around people that were raising stallions as family members. Ellie and Russ Funk had their kids on their stallions when he was 6, 7, 8 years old. I can tell you that to be around people that are comfortable with horses is a beautiful thing. And I would say that it doesn't mean that if you're forcing horses to do every darn thing that you're not comfortable around them, but it might be that what you're comfortable around doing is staying very set and determined and fixed and inflexible in the ways that you were shown. That also means that you're a good student, not that you're an idiot or a bad person. Oh, look at this nice hair I got going here. So I'm not trying to cast any dim light or any judgment on people who do things tough, hard. What matters if you do things tough and hard, in the Iberian Peninsula and in parts of Eastern Europe, you'll see some tough and hard that'll make your skin crawl. Southeast USA and all over Texas and various high-pressure places all over this country, not just Texas, not just Tennessee, not just the lower east states, where there seems to be a real reluctant group of people to try to add kindness. No, let me not say kindness. These are kind people and these are good people. I'm not talking about someone's character. It's about learning, doing what you've seen. It's about doing what you've learned. I make no judgment about someone who whips a horse. You think I haven't? I have. Not to somehow satisfy some dark part of my soul. That is for sure. My motive never came from there, and I'm not talking about people who do it for that reason. That's a whole other kettle of fish, and they are not people who are generally lasting in the horse business for terribly long. They just don't seem to endure, because it's not what most people want. But when we're talking about a firm, hard, make 'em do it, get her done right now style, you'll find that with people who load horses this way, this is not just about horses. This is how they also treat just about every other aspect of their life. That does not make them a bad person. It just means that they haven't had a chance yet to see that there are some other ways that this horse is set up internally to do a much better job, flatter them in a way that they probably have never imagined, by being so willing and so proud of being able to do a good job for you. Okay, it's very hard to do a good job when no one's giving you even a little bit of opportunity to say, can I have a minute to think? Could I just look at this for a minute? Could I put my head down and take a look? I've never been in this thing before. Could I have a look, please? You want me to put my feet where? You want me to stand next to who? What is that up there? What is that thing in the front there? Who is that? I have to leave who? My foals back in the barn, and I'm going where? To the vet by myself? These are things we really must think about. We really must think about them. Because, you see, to develop resistance in the horse without realizing that you're authoring and contributing to the horse's need to feel that the need to act on this just surge of self-preservation instinct that is impossible for a horse to ignore. To be creating that in the animal and not understand that you actually are the contribution to the problem that you're now trying to solve, helps if you can think about that. So, this does not mean that I'm offering a way that is a cure-all. It's just to add to what you already know. And if you're good at forcing them in and you're comfortable with that, I would say don't change much, because if the people around you and the horses around you are used to that consistency and they have developed the ability to read you and do what you want in that format, then that means you're consistent. And many, many, many people who have a gentler way are not. And in some ways, that's more troubling. There's something that is really good about the hard line that I've seen taken in some places, which is that it's the same way every time, every day. The horses don't have to operate on a slippery slope. Does that mean that I'm really, really excited about seeing someone beat up a horse every time they want to get it in the trailer? No. No, I don't like that. No, the horse doesn't like that. No, it's not necessary. However, if it's the same thing every time, you at least have a horse that has something consistent to understand. Does not mean he likes it. It does not mean that it's the only way or the best way. But there is something that happens, I think, and I've noticed in the minds of people, animals, pets, children, certainly horses, that if you change your deal, you modify what you do by 10, 20, 50% every time, there is nothing there to count on. There's nothing there for that horse to fall back on in the way of sureness. It's much better, I think, and that I've observed, for a horse to say, oh, now we're going to do this. Oh boy, here it comes. I'm going to get a kick in the butt, then I'm going to get a jerk on the face. Now I got to run backwards. Now I go to the side. Now they want me out of the way. Now they want me here. Oh boy, here we go. So that dance, as unfulfilling as it may be, and as counterproductive to your ultimate goal of getting a horse to do a piaffe, to work in liberty, to go in a stall, to whatever, stand for the farrier, whatever routine you do, whether it is a shortcut or the long way around, if it is the same every time, that constant thing that a horse can count on is sometimes safer and better for that animal in the long run. And I want to say that I have improved a lot in 50 years, in 60 years. I started working with horses when I was 4. I had a little break for 3 years, and from 7 to now, it's a long time. I'm better. In some ways, I have to admit, and I hasten to say, that I was probably better between the age of 7 and 13 before I got formal instruction. I really understood horses at a different level. I do still understand them that way now, but I took a long time off from considering the horse's point of view when it became clear to me that pleasing my teacher and getting that good feedback and that smile and that atta-girl and those ribbons and all the stuff that made it really feel like I was doing something with horses. I'd long ago forgotten that the things I was doing before fit the horse just fine. I was starting colts when I was 10 and 11. I was getting bucked off. I wasn't starting them in any kind of way, but when you go to Bernie Gomez's auction house, or you go to his disgusting horse farm where he had a horse, he had a horse hanging from a tree that the pigs were eating. Come on, this is pretty low end. And there were a lot of things that went on down around there that weren't great. He gelded my horse with a piece of metal that came off a tin can. Things weren't always done the best way. Bernie, if you're listening to this, I'm so sorry, but I learned some good things, though, from him. And I got some really good horses from him. My uncle bought horses from him. And Bernie was operating on a shoestring budget, and he made a lot of people happy and got a lot of horses in good homes. And I thank him to this day for the things I saw that he did to get the right thing done. That stallion he sold me as a gelding. He sold him to me as a stallion, delivered him as a gelding. If you know how to do it, the backyard country ranch way in the back 40, and you know how to do it without that horse getting infected, then if you didn't need a vet that day, you didn't need a vet. I hardly recommend this. Please don't do it. But these are the things I saw when I grew up. So what I want to say at this point now is that, let's see, what time is it? I have to, just 1 second now. Oh my goodness, 9:25 my time. I've been yakking here for 20 minutes. That gives me 40 minutes to talk about hobbling and doubling. It's not really enough time, but okay. You can see I'm having a bad eye day. Just so torn up about this. I can't right now stand up and record for other reasons. So just got to bear with me. On YouTube, you don't have to see this. It's just listening. I also want to say one thing. I had an offer last night. I don't know if you're on here, Nikki. Nikki made a very, very generous offer. She's an old friend of mine and a really wonderful student, very, very good coach for kids, good horse trainer in her own right. Nikki was going to put up a GoFundMe thing last night. She asked me, you know, what I'm doing about all this so-called free information. Listen, it's my pleasure. I would be horrified to see a GoFundMe account stuck up here in my name at this moment. It is not time for something like that. This is a genuinely offered, absolutely no strings attached, from my heart gift from me to you. I'll do it as long as I can. I cannot tell you the amount of time and hours that Buck and Bill both invested in me being able to even sit here today and do this. So it's not any part of me needing or wanting that, and I do understand what Nikki meant. She knows I've got some really long-term projects that I've been trying to capitalize, you know, in fits and starts and little bits to finish my books and finish the DVD instructional series, interactive audio and visual and print media. I've got these projects. I do them on the airplane. I do them in the airports. I do them late at night wherever I am. But yes, would finances help with that? Of course. It's not the time. I did have some offers yesterday to help on editing the documents, the texts from all of these recordings. Somebody wants to jump in with that and do some editing and help me chunk these down into something that could be put down as articles. Any of you with those skills would like to help with that, it would be greatly appreciated. You can write to me at ridewell@lesliedesmond.com. That type of help I would welcome with open arms. Money, no. This is not for sale right now. We get something that can be offered in another way, or that's another matter. But Nikki, anyway, I've given it some thought, honey. I can't say yes to that. That would betray my sense of gratitude to the people who've helped me, and Buck and Bill were not the only ones. I had a ton of help from Ivan Taylor back in the 60s, who's long gone. He was a first World War Army cavalry officer, and also Bill Burton, God rest his soul. What an immense contribution he made to me. Another one long gone. Bill Burton was out in Harvester, Missouri, Bridgeton area, St. Louis, in the 70s and 60s. I worked with him. He was a jumping coach of note, I would say. Another fellow who helped me a great deal was Tom English in Massachusetts. Another guy was Joe Small. He was a harness maker from Bennington. I had some people at the racetrack in Pownell, Vermont in the 60s who would come down and help me with my horse. I was a child at that point. Anyway, many, many, many people have given their best efforts. Ellie and Russ Funk and two other ones from Berkshire County. Really, without them I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now either. So let me continue. Thank you for all of your help. And I hope what I'm able to provide here is helpful to some of you. Let me get right to the hobbling. Why would we hobble a horse? Why would we talk about hobbling and doubling before we think about trailer loading a horse? I'm just going to say a well-started horse wouldn't need either one. A well-started horse is going to do just fine being able to follow the feel of a well-presented request to liven up and move forward or move backwards, to take the shoulders left and right or to take the hips left and right. This does assume that you've learned how to do it without crowding the horse or developing little spots of resistance, little braces in him, little spots of hardness that come back against you as you're asking him to implement what you want. You ask him to do something and then change your position or jerk the rope or you block him or you get in his eye and prevent him from doing the thing that you've asked. It will take longer to get these things done. But assuming that you've got a good working relationship with your horse, hobbling and doubling will not be necessary. The kinds of horses that, for whom hobbling would be helpful, is horses that are truly convinced that by slamming and striking their feet in a trailer or against a building where they're tied or against a trailer where they're tied, that they will have people who come and run and save them and move them or give them attention or even give them a spanking or move them next to a different horse or make every effort to relieve their anxiety. You can train a horse to train you just by getting tired of listening to the noise. So the kinds of horses that are using their front legs to strike or to pound on other horses or pound on your equipment or your trailer, and I'm not just talking about the odd slapping around in a trailer if they're anxious or getting colic or worried. That's a very different sound and a very different commitment, and the more you're around horses, you'll understand that there's a big difference in what a horse means when he starts to paw. Striking and pawing are two different things. A little bit of nervousness or shuffling around or starting to stress out by just lifting a hoof up and kind of curling a leg up to the elbow and bending their neck down to the end of the lead rope with their mouth kind of open as if they're chewing on a bit with their mouth tied shut. That's another gesture that is not worthy of punishment and not worthy of hobbling and not worthy of serious correction. That's just a sort of a deeper level of stress and an expression of emotions and anxiety and frustration and unsureness. So all feet that come up off the ground against your better wishes and judgment is not a signal for you to leap into action and start hobbling, by no means. Having said that, the point of hobbling a horse that does not allow you access to his forehand is to remind him what his front end is for. And one of the things his front end is for is to be able to shift that weight wherever it's needed. So the kind of hobbling I'm talking about in this case would be a single foot figure eight hobble that is double stitched, reinforced, and not going to bust in half just because you decide that you're going to put it on. You don't want to teach a horse that he's stronger than a hobble. And what I mean by that is it goes right to the convention of tying a horse by a string. A lot of people will put a horse on a little piece of thread or some baling twine so that he can break it if he thinks he needs to leave. Just please don't tie your horse up if you're planning for that. I say that because why would you teach your horse that all he has to do is break a string to not be tied? The definition of tying is that he's tied. The definition of preparing him to fail so that you can go catch him across town or down the road or visiting the horse at the next pasture and farm is tying him by a string because you expect him to break it. He won't disappoint you. That is one of the worst things I've ever seen people do. They do it all over the UK. They do it in many places in Europe. They do it some places here. I understand what people do that for, but I don't think they realize how little help it really is in the education of a horse, because it teaches them to pull back out of a trailer when they don't want to be in there. It teaches them to pull back off a tie ring when your farrier's working on your horse, suck back, rip that tie rail out and land it right in the middle of your farrier's back. I mean, come on. If you're going to tie up a horse, let's learn how to tie up a horse. Maybe I need to do a session about that. But there's absolutely nothing to be gained by teaching your horse to tear loose when he feels like it. So those horses that have learned that are the kind of horses that would really benefit from hobbling, in my opinion, in my experience. Pardon me. What you do in an effective hobbling situation is you teach that horse a little bit about what you're for. So when I tie up a front leg, it's not just walk up and tie up that front leg. And he's certainly not tied to anything when you do, by the way. This is something you do not do when a horse is tied. I don't anyway. I've seen some pretty bad results, and I know some people who have lost some horses doing that. Tie him up to a wall, put his leg up, put his hoof up right by his elbow, strap that leg to itself, and then watch the games begin. No, thank you. You'll have a damaged or a dead horse doing that, so we're not going to do that. The horse needs his neck for balance, and he needs to understand the purpose of the exercise in order to do it well and in a timely way, and also to use you for what your best job at that point would be, which was to let his foot down. This requires that you be very observant. It requires that you have good supervision learning how to do this. I don't know, 18, 20 years ago, I went up to Snohomish and I did some hobbling courses for my friend Grace and for Shane and his wife. And those were good sessions, and people learned a lot, and I think they did well. Everybody did well. In my apprenticeship program, everybody learns how to hobble. Then you learn how to teach it. And then you learn the timing on releasing those legs, and it's just very, very important to do it. You'll find when you tie up a left front leg, it's going to be a right front leg. It's going to be, you're going to see some different responses. When you tie up a right front leg, the horse is going to have a new relationship with his left diagonal. So if you've got a horse with sciatic pain or compromises in the shoeing on the hind feet, maybe you don't want to tie up that right front foot first, okay, because a horse needs a triangle on which to balance. And the point of hobbling a horse before you load him, hobbling him, now I'm talking about with one foot. I am not talking about putting a two-leg hobble around him or using your figure-8 hobble to tie both front legs together. This is not any part of it at the moment. This would take you pretty far away from what I'm talking about. That's another job, and that has another set of uses. There are many reasons, I'll give you 2 or 3 of them right now, why you would want to hobble your horse, and the main one is so that he understands that confinement is part of his reality, and it could be just because he gets his foot caught in a cattle guard. He could roll in some arena somewhere that you've got him, or slip and fall on the ice or in the mud and get his leg under one of those horrible gates, those little thin panel gates that'll just tear a horse up like glass. They're aluminum, lightweight aluminum gates. They are really rough to have around a barnyard where you got horses. It's a really good way to get them cut up in the legs. They have sharp edges and things like this. But even if you don't get a horse physically cut, you get enough of a leg underneath a gate or a board or through a board, or in wire, hung up in barbed wire or page wire when you're riding around in the fall long after the grass has died and all the vegetation is down on an old farm or some kind of homestead where they had goats and sheep and pigs and whatnot, kept the backyard pony there, and you've got maybe 200 or 300 feet of page wire fence under a field that's long been seasons worth of growth and died, and then you walking along or trotting through that and catch a foot in a piece of wire. Avoidable situation. Some of these horses don't survive those things, because they start to fight it as one might. They fight it because it's confinement and it's sudden, it's unexpected, and they're flight animals, so they start to run from what they don't understand if their curiosity is not surrounded by circumstances or supported by circumstances that allow them to understand in a more quiet or contemplative way what they actually have to do to get free. So by hobbling carefully, you can actually educate a horse that the ability to wait and the ability to finagle his way out of a tight spot with a leg or a hoof or a shoe that's caught is well within his capacity. Those are really, really important things to teach a horse when he's young, aside from the fact that he's going to be beholden to you for the for the behavior of his behavior as it relates to his hoofs and his legs and his decisions about what to do with both. So let's just say that you can't go wrong by learning how to hobble well in a horse's young life. But most people don't recognize that or have access to the education or to the examples of this that would convince them this was a good idea. When I get my videos done and out there, you will see a very different interpretation and execution of this than is currently available on YouTube that I've seen. And I hasten to say I can't wait to get all these things out there for you, but it takes time. And right now is a sort of a one-person operation. It's nothing quick, but in terms of what it means to teach a horse to balance in a moving trailer, when he has learned to just flail around with his front legs, get his feet over a lead rope, smash into you or whatever he's tied to, this is not going to work out in your trailer or in someone else's trailer, and it's not probably going to work out for him long term. So to get control of those feet and teach him how to be accountable to you before it's really important is important. Okay, now there are some cautions. I did mention the importance of having the hind feet in really good shape. When I say that, I'm talking about having enough heel that your horse is not actually bearing weight on the heel bulbs. Sometimes it happens in a horse's life or in a farrier's education or a barefoot person's education that they've kind of been instructed to drop the heels so low that the horse is actually walking on skin. The heel buttresses are no longer there, either from one accidental trimming or many intentional systematic removals of the rear third of the horse's, what I consider an essential hoof structure that is there in every wild horse and is there in every normal horse. To take it away, I fail to find the words to explain my disappointment and my sadness when I see horses that have a hairline. Their cornet band goes straight down into the ground, and you look at it and you'll see, no matter how long the toe is, that actually the whole back end of the foot has sort of slipped under and become a weight-bearing structure, which is not what nature does by itself without interference or help or whatever you choose to call it. That is not naturally meant to be a weight-bearing structure, and particularly when you've got them on the sort of corrugated stainless steel or corrugated aluminum or iron trailer floors, or you've got them on slick mud where there is no possibility for a heel to grab and bite, but they're actually sliding around on their heel bulbs behind. And this is even made worse when a horse is overhandled on the left and he's got an offset sacrum where his right hind, sort of as a default, his right hind is stuck out in the back. He doesn't square up easily. He doesn't square up naturally. So why am I mentioning this? In a slant horse trailer, it's not, that's in a slant load or a stock trailer, it's not as big an issue. But if you're loading a horse that is standing on his heel bulbs behind, front too, but mostly behind I'm talking about, because when they're traveling, they need to be able to have as much weight in the back of themselves as they can, or equally spaced between four legs. But if you're going to hobble or load a horse that's got really, really soft skin, that is maybe turned to callus, but you've got the weight-bearing surface of support on that actual footprint is out too far ahead of the skeletal column, the downward weight-bearing column. And that foot is too far ahead of that, and that actually soft tissue, the skin, the hairline, the growth line, all of this is just the bulbs of the heel have slid underneath into a new function. Form does follow function. Function follows form. So if you've reduced the buttresses of the heel or taken them away altogether, and you've got a short or a long toe, but that horse is standing on skin, this is not a good candidate for hobbling. He is not a good candidate for putting on a hard floor and trailering either. You might want to put on boots or rethink what it is that he's supposed to be supporting himself with, because what ends up happening is that it shifts his ability and changes his ability to maintain a top line and carry weight on the spine, which, although it's not recommended, is what a lot of horses have to do. And the minute you start to adjust the foundation, which is where the horse's body is standing on the ground, the minute that that is something that either is painful or compromised, or affects his ability to maintain, I'm going to say, bilateral, two-sided, even balanced function in the pelvis, because of discomfort or, as I said, too much handling and attention, excessive training on the left, all of the equipment on the left, all of the everything through life on the left, so that he is, in effect, a one-sided horse with a very heavy left shoulder and an offset sacrum. This is not the kind of horse that I would just do a quick one-bam hobble job on and throw him in a trailer. The kind of body setup that I'm talking right there is much better suited to travel loose or in a stock trailer or in a slant load. You want to try to think about what's going to be the condition and mental setup of the horse when you get him out of that trailer and you want to tack up and go for a ride on a body that's been suddenly kind of forced into alignment and forced to square up in a two-horse straight-ahead trailer when 365 days a year the rest of the time he's able to kind of stand in a bent left posture with the weight loaded on the left shoulder and the right hip disengaged. So these short-term requirements that they adjust their body to fit a trailer or fit the circumstances in the moment, where their cooperation or submission, whichever you want to call it, whichever you need them to do in that moment, it's going to have a repercussion on the person who saddles and rides that horse, or if they're stoic, it'll start to have an effect on their stomach. Horses that have certain types of horses will not show you how they feel. They'll just hold it in just like people do. They won't show pain, they won't show discomfort, they won't show anxiety, they won't show tolerance and patience that is beyond what could be expected of any living thing. Many horses will just suck it up and then get sick from it. Those of you who are in this long enough know what I mean, I think. Anyway, let me see. Are there any questions? I'm going to take a question or two right now. There are many, many things also in the doubling that I want to clarify. Let me see what time it is now. I don't want to go too far over this thing. Let's see. 9:46. I think I started at 9:10. This is going to give me 15, about 20, 25 minutes, I think. 20 minutes. All right, I'll talk about doubling now. I would encourage you to note this email address, ridewell, RIDEWELL at lesliedesmond.com. If you have questions, please send them there. As I said before, if you have editing or good proofreading skills and would like to help out on this project to get the proper descriptions on these long YouTube, these audio files that are on YouTube. I don't think they're video files, are they? I hope not. Anyway, whatever they are, they need to be properly described so that people don't just lumber into a 2-hour session and get lost looking for something on hoof care, and they find that, it's just about saddling or catching a horse or something. So those of you who are set up with enough time and enough focus and skill to help me with that, it would be much appreciated, and I'll accept your offers very happily. And if not, I'm just going to have to wait till I have time to do it, because it will get done. So now on the doubling, there's not a lot that I've seen. Now, I have to admit I haven't made an exhaustive search, but there's not a lot that I've seen out there and put out there on what doubling is. It's a little bit of an old-fashioned term, I guess. And what it just means is you double back on your line. I talked about this a little bit last night. You're going somewhere and then you double back. It's just like you run down the hall toward your front door. You double back because you forgot your keys. Most of us will double back the same way every time. We'll take the same leading leg, same leading shoulder, same support leg, push into the turn and go. Forgot your keys, forgot your wallet, whatever it is. When you double a horse, if you're not mindful of the way you operate in your own skin, if you're not mindful of the fact that you're right-handed and ought to also use your left hand quite a bit, or vice versa, if you're not mindful of the fact that if you look at yourself in the privacy of your personal moments in your own home in front of a full-length mirror and examine yourself and realize that your right arm and your fingers against your thigh are 1, 2, 3 inches lower than your left hand, if you haven't taken that into account, that would mean that your left shoulder is higher than your right shoulder. It would mean, in most people, that your right hip is higher than your left hip. So you're going to have a spine and a neck and a way of standing, and the the bottoms of your shoes, the heels of your boots, your gum sole cowboy shoes, or your I don't care if it's your fancy white lumberjack boots, whatever it is you're wearing. Could be your earth shoes, who knows? But your feet and your ankles and your knees and your hips are going to align around the function that your body performs every day. Your form is going to follow the function. You farriers know what I mean. You people that only ride to the left know what I mean. You moms out there that are on your 3rd, 4th, or 5th kid and you've never changed hips, please change your hip. Start using your other arm, because when you're a good bit older, you're going to look like the person I'm talking about. You're going to have, your hips are going to be in one angle, your shoulders will be in the other, your head will be off to the side, and you're not going to have an athletic enough body to really get out there and boogie on a horse that's young or got a little challenge to offer. I want all of us, myself too, to stay in shape, because that's where you have the fun, and that's also what is going to help you stay ahead of the injuries and stay ahead of the trouble when you really need to help a horse or help a friend with a horse, okay? So these are the kinds of things that I want you to be aware of when we talk about doubling or lunging or loading a horse in a trailer. Do your arms hang evenly? Well, if they don't, you probably don't have even reins either and don't know it. These are the types of things that are going to help you greatly and actually eliminate the need to double a horse. If you have enough time to train him well, you won't have to be dealing with the resistance and the errors that are built into his responses to you because you have a body that is out of alignment. I fix this all the time with people. I'm bringing this up all the time. It's probably one of the main things, aside from hooves that are in balance, that leads to me having to say, as I did 2 weeks ago in Europe, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to teach you today. We'll talk about a few things. Here's a book you can read. I'll see you later. I had 6 horses in, I think, about 8 days. The people were out of alignment. The horses were out of alignment to the point where it was not possible to ride them humanely. And that's a fact. It's not like I didn't need the income. It's not like I didn't schedule the time because the people didn't need the help. But there's a limit. And my limit is quite a bit different than many people's limit. But it's a limit that I feel is important to share with you, because the more you cross a horse's limit, particularly these stoic ones who can't tell you what's going on or won't, and if you don't know how to read it, it leads to some situations you wish would never happen, and it leads to them hard and fast. So I'll just tell you something, because I got this eye thing happening right now. This is from an accident, and I got run down by a horse. That's the wrong thing to say. I stepped out of the way of a horse that was charging down at me off a hill, and he was charging into a crowd. It was at a clinic, and actually this event was on film. I know several people who, I still know and work with several people who were there when it happened. So I stepped out of the way, and there was an earth berm behind my knees that had been put there by some road crew, which I didn't see. So I stepped to the right, I got out of his way, I stepped back into something that was right behind both knees, and over I went, right on the back of my head in the road. So I'm still, this is not the horse's fault, it wasn't my fault, it wasn't anybody's fault, but these things are the kinds of things that are happening all over, and you just do the best you can after them. But the main thing is you want to stay agile, and you want to stay in shape, and you want to stay alert, and you want to be able to double a horse with the help of a long rope, a tree, a good plan, and most importantly, when he comes around that tree and can stop and put slack in the rope, you need to be facing away from him, and he can just wait with that slack that you create by dropping a coil to him after he tightens that rope and stops his feet, and you don't want to be staring at him. You double a horse around a tree, you should be on your way the way he's headed. Wait for him, put the slack right to him, let him figure out how to go around that tree, and come back with you. If you don't push his face in the fact that he tried to get away and couldn't, if you don't push his face in the fact that he ran away from you, you snubbed him to a post in that regard, and then you're going to face him and get after him or be confronting him, the whole lesson is out the window. That's what people have missed. So, Bill was very instrumental in me understanding that. I think some people try to establish this with a circus pole. I think some people try to establish this by having a horse on a 12 or 20-foot lead and chasing him in one direction and then stopping their feet, jerking him back, and you're looking him right in the face in that case. And why would he want to see you? You know, he was running away for a reason. You chase him away and then you force him to look at you while you're going to do it again and again. It doesn't create lightness. It creates a huge, gigantic brace right in the head. The mind is the biggest brace you get from that one. You can always sort of work your way around a physical brace. There's tons of people that are able to ride around a horse's limitations. But when we're talking about getting a horse loaded in public with other horses, we're talking about loading a horse alone in the dark at night. It's really a pain in the neck to realize that that horse doesn't know how to follow the feel with his feet of your hand and your intent and your body and the float in that rope to be able to just do what you want the way you'd take your child across town, across the street in town. You know, you don't see most people just taking their kids right up off the ground in the air and hanging them by their elbow and shoulder while they're swinging them across the street till they get to the sidewalk 80 paces later. That's not nice. That's not the way most people take their children or their family or their bride across a road. It's disgusting. So, just be as nice to your horse as you are to your best friend, because that is who he is, really. He's trying to be that. So set him up. If you're in the business of fixing problem horses, just understand that the horse doesn't really have that problem. It's the mark of the people that were there before that you're dealing with, and I really, really hope that that point is clear. Horses are not bad. They cannot be bad. They cannot be bad. They can be taught to behave in ways that are not useful. But when a horse is actually turned to the point where he hates human beings, then other decisions might want to be considered. But it's very hard to get a horse back from that point to the point to where he could be safe around the general public. It is not good ever to have a horse that has reached that point. And if you are handling one and you've been able to pull one around and back from that precipice, then it generally tends to be a one-person horse, I've noticed. So be careful if you're in the business of creating one-person horses, either as you raise and train them so that they're too sensitive or too light or too particular about what they'll accept in a human being that you can't actually even have somebody else ride or lead or load it without running into trouble. I'm sorry to say I've created a horse like that. Circumstances helped, for sure, but you want to make sure that you can build a certain amount of buffer into a horse to tolerate some of the, I'll just say it, sloppiness, carelessness, lack of attention to detail, just human nature. You want to, don't get your horse so refined and so elegant and so precious that you know, that you're the only person that can deal with him, because what does he do when you're gone? And I'll say this in the same way that it has to do, it has to do also with the fact that, oh darn it, I lost my place. What was I thinking of there? Well, I'll get back. I'll find it another time. As it is, it's 1 minute to 10 over here, and I've got 1,000 things I need to do right now. If you have questions about doubling or hobbling or trailer loading or any of this, there are two places to put them. One is ridewell@lesliedesmond.com. The other place would be, you could put it right here as comments in here, or you could just do a separate post to me on the timeline. Okay, on my timeline, and I will put it on my timeline so that your good questions can be shared and people will feel a little bit less lonely. I will say one thing. Sometimes people don't want me to hear their questions because they think that they're too stupid or that they're too elementary. The only way to get good with horses is to refine the basics. And if you are trying to become an expert or try to uphold your local or regional reputation as, the best person around, big fish in a small pond, however you want to look at it, I understand that. If you're not comfortable asking a question, have someone ask it for you. I don't care. I don't care who asks it. I care that if you have a question that you would like to have answered, that you know that there's a way to do it. You don't have to save face around here. We are all in this together. I think this is a pretty friendly group. Don't you? I do. So I will see you later. I hope you've enjoyed this. This is now in 6 parts. First was Sunday, second Monday, third on Tuesday. 2 parts yesterday was Wednesday. One at 3 o'clock and then one at like 11:30 at night. One about 48 minutes. That ended up being a total of about 2 hours or something. And then this morning. So those are your sections, and I sure hope that you've enjoyed this, and I'm sorry for there are some important things I'm sure that have been left out, and the main thing is pictures. Pictures and examples and trial and error and testimonials and all kinds of examples of horses that load well and don't load well and have never loaded. And believe you me, I'm working on it. When the time is right, I'll break all this out, and there will be a time maybe when I am looking for some kind of development support, when I have the right pieces in place and we're really in production on this thing. You guys want this enough and are in a position to help. I'll be very grateful on any basis, but for right now, just that you're interested and just that you're telling your friends and trying to be the best you can be for your horse, I couldn't ask for more.